טוב, קהל קדוש, Masechet Ketubot Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. You have 3A1. Okay? If you remember yesterday, we mentioned, right, the entire concept of what is the reason why Rabbi said that en ones begitin. Yeah? So, why is it that Rava said en ones begitin, that there's no honest begitin? What does it mean en ones begitin? Which means that a person comes and makes a condition that he's giving a get to his wife on condition that he doesn't come within 30 days or within 12 months. And all of a sudden, what happens is force majeure. He's on the other side of the river and he says, I'm here. Nada. He's considered divorced, even though he doesn't want. Why? En ones begitin. The question is why? Mitzad midin Torah be'emet, there is an honest. And therefore it's batel. We did differentiate yesterday, obviously, between an honest, which is shchiach, and not shchiach, which means that for it to be on the other side of the river, the canceling flights, that's something which is common in our days. And therefore, since it's common, you cannot compare it to a force majeure of, I don't know what happened, right, of a war or something like that. But it's common. Cancels flights is very, very common. You understand? So therefore, there is differentiation between something which is common, shchiach, and not. However, though, answer the Gemara yesterday, Mishum Tznuot Mishum Perutzot. Why? Mishum Tznuot, because if you're going to tell me that it's not considered a get, sometimes it's not going to be an honest. But she's going to think to herself, you know what? It's impossible. My husband for sure had an honest. So because she's going to think that really he did have an honest, she's such a tzanua, such a tzadeket, she's going to say, I'm not going to get married yet. Why? Because the husband didn't want to come back. And she doesn't realize that the husband he wanted to skip down a long time ago. Yeah, but she doesn't know that. So she's a tzadeket, she's with her tehillim all day. She thinks, no, for sure there was an honest. And really, be'emet, he skipped down, but she's going to stay in Aguna for the rest of her life. So, yeah. What? We come and we made a decree and honest begitin. There's no honest begitin. Why? To save you. So that way, no matter what happens, the husband doesn't come, Kaddish. I don't care why he didn't come. Yeah, that's it. And honest begitin. What is now Mishum Prutzot? What is the Prutzot? If you're going to tell me now that it's not going to become a get, sometimes what's going to happen is that there is an honest. Now, she found the opportunity. And she says, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Shepetarani. Right? So what happened? She says, no, there's no honest. He didn't come. He didn't want to come. I know. You know how he is. He didn't want to come back. And then she's going to go and she's going to get married. When inside get batel. Now, when he does come back, there is going to be an honest. And then the get is batel. Once the get is going to be batel, the children are going to become mamzerim from the second husband. So because of that, the rabbi said, en honest begitin, in order that for now, whether it's that the tznuot are not going to get worried about getting married to a second husband, and also there's not going to be a takala for the prutzot, right? That means if it was only going to be for the prutzot, they wouldn't have made such a takana. But since it's also for the tznuot and also for the prutzot, they came in to made a special takana in order that there's no problem across the board, and then that's it. And then you got out of new problems, okay? So says the Gemara. Now we're going to ask a very simple question. What did we say? We said, Mina Torah, the get is batel. There's an honest. The Torah believes in honest, right? Even in everything, there's such a thing as honest. So if there's such a thing as honest, how could it be that mitzad the Torah, it's honest, and now because of the prutzot or tznuot or whatever it is, we're going to start coming and start, changing the get. So says the Gemara, does there exist that there's something which midoraita? We are 2, 4, 5 lines down from the top of the page. Does there exist something that mina Torah? It's not a get. Doesn't make sense. Mina Torah, this piece of paper is worthless. This piece of paper is rien, is nothing. Yeah, the get, right? It's worthless. Why? It was an honest. There was an honest. The paper doesn't even worth a penny. So now how could it be that mitzvah the Torah is worthless, and now because of a takanat chachamim of prutzot and snuot, you come and you and you say, you know what, no. This paper is a good piece of paper. But 1 second. That means you're permitting a married woman, an eshet ish, to the shuk. With what? With a worthless piece of paper, not even with the get. So how does that work? How does that even make sense? So the Gemara says, yes. You know why? Kol de mekadesh, adaita de rabbanan mekadesh. We already learned this in the end of Yevamot a few times already as well. If you remember when we went and we said that we were going to be punishing, right, the person that did this. So he comes and he says this: anybody which is going to be mekadesh, adaita de rabbanan mekadesh. Meaning, how do you do kiddush? You come and you say, Areya mekudesh ni kedat Moshe v'Yisrael. Why are you saying kedat Moshe v'Yisrael? Because you're being mekadesh adata de rabbanan. And the fact that you're being mekadesh adata de rabbanan, afkeinu rabbanan kiddushin. The rabbis uprooted the kiddushin. You're right. If it was going to be a good kiddushin, meaning that the meaning doraita, that everything is good, and also so now a get, which is already annulled, the doraita cannot annul that marriage because you have a get which is worthless, right? And because mitzad the doraita it's nothing, and now this get is going to annul the marriage. No. So what do? We found a way of uprooting the kiddushin. From the beginning there was no kiddushin. So now if there's not going to be any kiddushin, now even a piece of paper could annul because there was no kiddushin to begin with. So that's what you have to. Meaning we found a mechanism in order to get out of this problem, because if not, you can't get out of this problem. If you're going to tell me the marriage is a good marriage, and then you're going to tell me this piece of pottery, this piece of paper is going to annul it, you can't, because a piece of paper is worthless. So if you have a marriage which is doraita, right, and everything is perfect, so now how do they do that? So now you can't do that. So therefore, what do? The rabbi said, 1 second, maybe even the marriage itself was annulled. Now, if we annul the marriage because they're already being kadesh right to the rabbanan, and the rabbis themselves uprooted the marriage, so now, even with a piece of paper, you could come, you could annul, even though it's worthless piece of paper. So says the Gemara, Amale Ravina Ravashi, says Ravina to Ravashi, Teinach Kaddish Bekaspa. But that's only if you get married with money. With money, with a ring, right? You say, Kaddish Bebiyah, what are you going to do now if a person came and he was Mekadesh Bebiyah? Which means, right, when he came and he was Mekadesh with relations, right? So now what happens is, how do they uproot that? Money, you could come and you could say whether it works because of betting, or things like that. But basically, they come and they could annul it that there was nothing there. And it was just a present, there was no marriage, there was nothing there. Fine. How do you deal with relations? He went and said, right? He said, he does all the Yehudim, he brought it up to Olam HaTzilut. Yeah, and then all of a sudden he comes, yeah, he did Vimoam, and all of a sudden he has relations with him. What do you do now with the relations? So says the Gemara, Shavyua Rabbanan leBeilato Beilat Zenu. You're right. The rabbis came and they made that the bi'ah is a bi'at znut, which means that they uprooted even the bi'ah. They come and they uprooted it and they made it. That he just come, he was fooling around. Yeah, the rabbis have the power of coming and saying that what? That he was just fooling around. But now that he was fooling around, there was no marriage. And that the rabbis uprooted the marriage, whether it was from Kesef, Shtar, or even Biyah, that they made the Biyah Tznu. Says the Gemara, Ika Damre. Remember that whenever there's an Ika Damre, there are those that say the Ika Damre is another version, right? It's another version of what we said before. Says the Gemara, Amar Rava says, what does that mean? If you remember when we came and we said the first, right, Rava, he said, Amar Rava unyangitin enoken. It's not like this. Now the Ikadami is exact opposite. Amar Rava says the same halacha applies to gitin, which means what? That there's a concept of honest. So just like if a person wanted to come and he wanted to get married to his wife, and he comes and he gives her the kiddushin, he has to wait a full year. And after waiting that full year, it comes a date, and all of a sudden now there's an honest, whether it's from him or from her. He's sick, she's sick, she became anida, they can't do the marriage. Does he have to give her parnasah or does he not have to give her to parnasah? We said that there's a concept of honest, and therefore he does not have to give her parnasah. But to do with gitin and honest begitin, now all of a sudden we switched. Amar Rabba v'cheli gitin. That also by a get, there's a concept of honest. So says the Gemara, Alma, you see from here, You see from here that there is the concept of onus by a get, which means that if a person came, he gave the get, there was a stipulation, and all of a sudden he says there was an onus, I wasn't able to come because of an onus. He's believed, and therefore they annul the get, and there's no problem. So it's a make phase. So now we're going to ask the following questions, which is now the exact opposite. Is now instead of bringing proofs, now we're asking questions. Says the Gemara, imagine a person comes and he says that this is going to be your get if I don't come from now within 12 months. And then he died within 12 months. And I'll get, it's not a get. Right? So he says, only if he dies, it's not a get. But if he got sick, it is a get. It is a get. So now why are you telling me then that there is a concept of honest? Here he was chala, right? He became sick. That's also an honest, just like the guy that became sick and he wasn't able to get married. It's the exact same thing. It's an honest. So says the Gemara, Leolam really bemet, I can tell you chala nami and get. Really bemet, even if he got sick, it's also not a get. That this is what we're teaching in this Mishnah. The end get lachamita. There's no get after death. Meaning after a person dies, there cannot be a get. A get cannot take into effect. Even though he gave it before his death, but it was only just because it was going to take into effect afterwards. It cannot happen. Right? Why? Because right now he's already dead. So it does not happen. And get lachamita. He comes and he says, I don't understand you. He says this concept of the get lachamita, we already learned it in the previous Mishnah. This is, by the way, this is deja vu. This is chazara. Yes, the exact same what we learned of yesterday. Yeah, 100%. So right. So what happens? What happens is that yesterday we said, "What do you bring me a proof from the Mishnah and I am vav and gitin?" There's a Mishnah and I am bet and gitin. The Mishnah over there said, right, that what? That we already learned it over there to do the choleh, that he's mesukan lamut. Right, you have a sick person and he's going to die. He gives a get to his wife and he says, or he comes and he says, this is the get if he dies, or this is the get from the sickness, or this is the get after death. The get is bater. Why? Because the get is only chal after death. So anytime that the get is going to be chal after death, there's any get la'achar mitah. There's no such thing as the get after death, which means after he dies, you can't trigger anything. It's already too late. It has to be that he still has a breath, that he's still breathing, that something could happen. Right? Because if not, it just doesn't work. So says the Gemara, he says, no, maybe he's coming to exclude that which the rabbi said. So remember, there was a whole thing, who's Rabotenu and everything over there. But basically, we said over there that if he says, no bati, right, so there's a get lachamita, so the Kavanah Mishnah was the get is batel because of the get lachamita. However, the Mishnah was only coming to teach you, right, that this klal is going to be lo bati if I didn't come. And to argue on Rabotenu that they say that it is going to be a good get. Okay? Tashima. We're going to learn from a bright. What happens if he says, now we're talking, David. Yeah, listen carefully. A person now comes and he says, the get is now if he doesn't come from within now until 12 months. What is the difference now? The difference now is that he said the get is chal now. When did he give the get? Today. What's the day? Tet. No? Tet Tammuz. Yeah? So the get is, he gives the get today. And he says, so here it's a little bit different. Because here he's saying it's retroactively that it's now. So now says the Gemara, if he dies within 12 months, how does it get? Here it is a get. Why? Because since he said it's from now, which means it's retroactively, so then you have to wait until the 12 months. 12 months comes. That means even though he died after 6, doesn't matter, you still have to wait until 12. Because that was the condition. You wait until the 12 months comes. Once the 12 months comes and he doesn't come, retroactively from now, from before that, it was a good get. So there, that's what the Gemara says, that it is going to be a good get. So says the Gemara. Let's you afterwards about which stuff it is. My love, says the Gemara, are we not talking about the exact same halacha applies to a chole as well? Says the Gemara, no. Met only by a met. If you remember, we kept on mentioning this 100 times, right? And that's why Baruch Hashem we learned Yevamot before Ketubot. There was a natural instinct that a person did not want the wife to fall in front of the Yavam. זה לא היה נעים, אפילו אם באמת זה לטובתו. Right? That means it's letovato that he should actually fall in front of the Yavam, that the wife should fall in front of the Yavam. So he has a takana. However, though, right, what happens though is that there's it could be. So, but basically what happens though is that all of a sudden we come and we say he doesn't want it. And because he doesn't want it, it's only because of a met, not because of a chole. Okay, because we only mean the salachai by a met, not by a chole. Tashem, we're going to try to bring another proof. There was a case where a person comes and he says to everybody, if I don't come from now until 30 days, it's going to be a get. He comes after 30 days, right? And all of a sudden, there's a river in between. So he's trying to get over the bridge, and they blew up the bridge, right? Or something happened to the bridge. The bridge is a work on the bridge. Nobody can pass by. So he comes and he says, so he tells everybody there, look, I'm here. I came. I'm over here. Shmuel says, it's not considered that he came. It's not considered that he came. In order to be batal again. I told you this Gemara is deja vu. Yeah? Exactly. Huh? He didn't give it retroactive. What was the answer yesterday? That there's a differentiation between
close and not close.
What's close and not close?
Close and close in the piece of a river or open?
No. You're talking about another Gemara. You're talking about my Mishalem Sof or not. You're in Yevamot. I'm in yesterday. You're in Yevamot. Can you testify that the guy died or not? Not there. We're in Ketubot. Says it's different than honest, which is shkia. The kevan di baile leatnuye velo atne iuhu davsida noshe. This we learned yesterday as well as again one more time. He said since it's an honest, which is shkia, so therefore what happens? He should have made the condition, which means, right? If a person is in the middle of COVID, and you know right now that in the middle of COVID, there's thousands of cancellations of flight cancellation. You cannot come and say that there was an honest because of flight cancellation, because you should have had that in mind. You should have known. But if there's nothing, and all of a sudden it just happened to be that a plane was blew out of the air, and because of that they had to cancel all flights, that's not normal. So for them, you don't have to make that stipulation. There's a difference between honest, which is common, and honest, which is not common. And if you did not make that stipulation, you lost out for yourself. You put your foot in. Says the Gemara, do you know that this entire concept was from Takanat Ezra onwards, which means, how do we start the Masechet? When do the Betulot get married? Get married on Wednesday night. Why do they get married on Wednesday night? So that way they could go to the Betin on Thursday morning. We asked the question, why don't they get married Sunday night so they could go to the Betin on Monday morning? And we answered the Kevin. Shatu Chachamim, right? The Shatu Chachamim Sutakana, Lebnot Israel, they should do Sunday, Monday, Tuesday preparing the wedding, and then Wednesday they get married. So says the Gemara, but says the Shlomo Yitzchak, this is only from Takanat Ezra onwards. Why? Takanat Ezra is that Betin always had to convene on Mondays and Thursdays, right? However, though, before the Takana, the institution of Ezra, remember Ezra Sofer, when he came up between the first and second Bet HaMikdash. So he says, that the Bet Din was every single day. Yishani said, so women get married every single day. Meaning that if it's a whole din in the Bet Din, so if the Bet Din is every single day, so therefore she could actually come and get married every single day. Why could she get married every single day? Because any problem that they have, they just go to Bet Din. Now he says that she wasn't a virgin, and that's it. And then you get out of the problems. Nowadays, it's only Monday night. You have to do it on Wednesday night. So says the Gemara, Kodem Takanat Ezra. What are you trying to teach me history? Before Takanat Ezra. What do I care about that now? I need to know Halakha Maaseh. What do I care about what we used to do once upon a time? So Gemara, no. This is what it means to say. Why did I have to know the history? What happens if the deen is every single day? Just like it used to be before Takanat. Meaning you come in a certain place And every single day there's betin. So then Ishan said, so now that's why it's so important to know what happened before the Knesset. Because if I am going to find a place where there is a betin every single day, right? And if it's instead, there's betin every single day. It's not only just Monday and Tuesday. So therefore, if there's going to be a betin every single day, so then now she can get married every single day. Because nothing to do with it anymore. Right? Ask the Gemara. The question that Ronen just wanted to ask. But what about the second reason? What was the second reason? We said that it has to be on Thursday because of the betin, but it couldn't be on Monday because of the catering. So what about the catering now? You're right. You got rid of the problem of the batei dinim, but you still need the problems of the catering. Shaktu. Habayina shaktu. Need the shaktu. Answers the Gemara. Which one? They were Torah, which means that they did it 3 days before the Shabbat, which means that you're right, they still have the Takanah. Why? Because they did it, let's say, Thursday, Friday, and then they did it on Sunday. Sunday night they got, before even, let's say, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whichever one there was, and then afterwards they were able to get married. Says the Gemara Mubet, my Shakdu. What is exactly Shakdu? Because remember, it was Shakdu Chachamim. The Tanya was learned in Raita, right? 5 minutes. What is the reason why we said that the Betula gets married on Wednesday? Shemeyalo Tana Betulim means if there was going to be Tana Betulim and Mashkim Betin, they would come to Betin. Betina say asked the Gemara Betina said Shabbat. Why don't we get married on Sunday night? On Sunday, Shemeyalo Tana Betulim and Mashkim Betin, and therefore if they had Tana Betulim, they would go to the Betin. And so the Gemara Shaktu Chachamim Takana Benot Yisrael. The Chachamim they went and they were takfu. They wanted for the good of all Benot Yisrael, they wanted that the people should be prepared. They should prepare for the wedding. Not that you just come. Remember, a wedding is something, nowadays you have to prepare 4 or 5 months in advance. It's time for a wedding. But once upon a time, but minimum, the same thing. They had to prepare for a wedding. They didn't just want to go to a wedding today and that's it. No, you have to prepare. So it's a special takana in order that they should be able to prepare. If you want to call it the takana of the caterers, whatever you want to call it, that they should prepare for the wedding, and then they're going to come, they're going to get married. Says the Gemara, however, though, from the sakana and onwards, we're going to explain afterwards what was the danger. They started getting married on Tuesdays, not on Wednesdays, Tuesdays. But the rabbis did not rebuke them. Right? However, though, on Monday, for sure they shouldn't do it because the sakana, it was only enough to do it 1 day. They didn't need to do it 2 days, and therefore they still wanted the 3 days or at least 2 days of the shakdu of takana chachamim with the caterer. So they still wanted at least 2 days. That means because of the sakana, they permitted you to get married 1 day early. As I said one more time, I'll repeat. We're going to say it in 1 minute, right? So therefore, from the sakana and onwards, right? So therefore, what happens is that they were doing it 1 day early. The rabbis didn't rebuke. However, though, on Monday you can't get married. That's 2 days early, and we still want it. So says the Gemara, but if it was force majeure, so then it's going to be permitted even on Monday. Another important halacha. We're going to separate the chatan and the kala on the night of Shabbat because he's making a chabura on Shabbat. What does that mean? Right? He's hurting her. He's breaking blood. He's wounding her. And because of that, all of a sudden, he's doing that on Shabbat. You don't have to cause a wound on Shabbat. Right? If I want to come in and punch you out, I can punch you out on Shabbat. Because then I make a bruise. And bruise, you could have a problem, right, of coloring and all these things. So make sure I have to make sure that they don't do it on exactly the first night. So therefore, which means that if they did not have relations until the, how do you call it? Until the, right, they cannot do it. They cannot do it. Now they're giving us the sakana. My sakana, what is the sakana? Right? If you're going to tell me that there was a special takana, the Malchut came and they said they don't want any new marriages on Wednesdays. And anybody that gets married on Wednesday, we kill them. That's a sakana. So says the Gemara, Nahadu, legam. I don't understand. It became a minhag now. Right? But one more time. What do we say? From the sakana onwards, they had a minhag. Nahagu. I don't understand. If it became now a sakana, that women cannot get married on Wednesdays, right? And they purposely did it against the Jews. So what do you mean, nahagu? Uprooted completely. What's going on? Amar Rabba, no. You know what the sakana was? The sakana is the Amri Betulan, he said, Yom Revi, Tibael Legmon Techila. There was a special, this by the way, was something very common, right? Where the Goyim used to do, that the rulers of the cities would come and they say, the first relations is with the ruler of the city.
What?
It was something very, very common, right? The Amri, Betulan, instead, Yom Revi, any Betulah that gets married on Wednesday, they have to have a relation with the Hekmon. The Hekmon is a Moshe, the ruler at the beginning. So because of this Gezerah, the rabbis went and they said, you know what? What we're going to do now is we're going to start getting married now on Tuesdays. Because the rule was only on Wednesdays. So therefore, they do it on Tuesdays, and therefore there's no problem. So says the Gemara, this is sakana. It's honest, right? Why? It's force majeure. At the end of the day, it's not a sakana. They're not going to kill her. They're just going to violate her. But that's honest. So answers the Gemara, no, it was a sakana. Why? Nishum nika tznuot. There were girls, but they were tznuot. The masran nafshayu nafdala. They would come and they would say, even though it's honest and even though it's permitted to go in the segmon, they prefer to die on Kiddush Hashem with Kiddusha and not to go with it. And therefore, since they come and they put themselves in sakana, so therefore they do come to sakana. So because of that, which one? Says the Gemara. So because of that, they went and they said, let's do, instead of doing on Wednesday, we do on Tuesday. We already mentioned that we're not going to do it on Monday because we still had shakdu for the other 2 days. And we still wanted that they should do the catering. So now says the Gemara, Hai sakana, it's an honest sense. We don't know because it's not. They give over the lives and therefore they come to sakana. So says the Gemara, teach them. Go to these snuot, right? These women that they're so, what's it called, snuot, and teach them. It's honest. What do you want? You're supposed to give yourself over to Hekmon. What does that mean? At the end of the day, right? It's permitted. And if it's permitted, they're not going to give over the lives. And so they're going to, no. Zika prutzot. You also have the other way. You have the prutzot. And the prutzot, right, that they come and they hear that a woman is, so they're going to go willingly. They're going to be happy, right? Listen, once she gets married, she only gets one guy, right? Now she has a pass, right? Why would she put up on the pass, right? She's got a free pass to another guy as well. Of course she would want it. Why not? So because of the prutzot, we can't teach the tznuot. Now, because the tznuot we can't teach them, because of the prutzot, because they would give themselves willingly, so now the tznuot will give up their lives. And now it becomes a sakana. So because of the sakana, we go back and we're going to do it on Tuesday. So says the Gemara, yeah, we're going to coin it. A woman gets married to a kohen. Even if it's going to be an honest, even if it's going to be force majeure, she's prohibited forever to her husband. So what are you going to do with the kohen? So says the Gemara, so 1 second. This is another reason why it doesn't help us, this concept of honest and sakana. Okay, because we can't just say, honest, there's a kohen, now you have a problem. So because of that, we said, we approved it to do it on Tuesday's wedding instead of Wednesday. So says the Gemara, just approved it completely. No. Which means like this. Sometimes, right, and this happens even today. Listen very carefully. Sometimes it is coming on today. Sometimes you have a decree, which is a certain decree. The decree will get annulled. And then we could go back to the original status quo. So because of that, we don't change what we did before. Which means like this. We had a takana. Most takana Wednesday nights. Why? 2 reasons. Number one, the betin the next morning, right? And you had the shaktu. Was the shaktu made it Wednesday night? It's going to do it Sunday night also. But because of shaktu. So there was but it's really the main reason is because of the betin, right? But because of shaktu, you do Wednesday night or not Sunday. Okay, fine. Now all of a sudden there's a danger of doing Wednesday nights. Why? Because of the Egmon. So when do you do it? Tuesday nights. So just approve it completely. Just say now, from now on, you can get married on Tuesday nights. Right? It says, no, why? Because what's going to happen is all of a sudden, now they got rid of the ruler. Now the ruler is gone. They don't have to. So we come. That's why it only says it's a new minhag, but we still have takana, which means everybody knows that this is the way that it should be done. The only thing is, because of force majeure, we do it now on Tuesdays. But the second that the decree will become annulled, we go back to the original custom. So because of that, we didn't want to uproot the original custom. We just made a new minhag for the time being. And once that gets annulled, then we go back to the original. So it says the Gemara, if so, 1 second. Maybe he's going to come and it's also going to be, it's going to happen. That's what. That the sakana that we're talking about was a gezerah, that any virgin that gets married on Wednesday had to have relations. So wouldn't it help now, right, that they're getting married now on Tuesday? But Shashinami on Tuesday, he's also going to come and show up and also have relations with them. Says the Gemara, he wouldn't do it because of safek, which means like this. If for example nowadays, right, when are usual marriages, right? The Goyim, Sundays. You already know that. Now the Hegmon would come on Sunday, right? The Hegmon would come on Sunday, and then what would happen is that if he would come on Sunday, right, then he would come and he would have relations with all the betulot that they got married that day, right? He would have some fun. But now would he come on Thursday? He wouldn't come on Thursday because he just got it out. Who's getting married on Thursday? So he wouldn't come. Meaning misafek, he wouldn't come. So because of that, they started making this minhag. They would start getting married on Tuesdays because now it's like distorted when their marriages, and then he's not always going to come. So therefore, he's not coming on Tuesdays. So he's not going to come. By the way, you should know this concept. I'm very surprised, David. You have a very vast knowledge on parasha. But this was what happened with Betuel. If you remember, it was a miracle that Betuel died. You remember Betuel was the father of Rivka? Because Betuel did that. And what happened was the people of the city were saying, one second, this guy is coming and having relations with all our daughters because he was the hegemon. He was the one that was the hegemon. Let's see if he's going to have relations with his own daughter, Rivka, right? And then what's going to happen is if he doesn't, we kill him. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a miracle that he died. So now that he died, he's not going to have relations with his daughter Rivka, and therefore Mila, she's going to be a betula when she goes to Yitzchak Avin. Yeah, he comes and he says like this. He comes and he says like this. Yeah, but you don't do it on Monday. But if it's going to be honest, and it's going to be permitted. My honest, what is honest? You're going to tell me it's the honest that we just spoke about now to do with having relations with the Egmon. What's going on? We just said that if you can't get married on Wednesday because of the sakana, you get married on Tuesday. Because of honest, you get married on Monday. One second. What's sakana and what's honest? If you're going to tell me now that it's because of the Hegmon, yesterday you called that sakana and today you're calling it honest, what's going on? The two, and furthermore, hatam nahagu. There was written that we had to get married on Tuesdays. Here it says because of the honest, it's mutar to get married on Tuesdays. There's a difference between the word nahagu and mutar. Nahagu means that it's not the mutar. It doesn't mean hag to do it. Right? It's not that it's mutar to do it. It doesn't mean hag to do it. Mutar means mutar to do it, even if there's no minhag. Do it to do it. There's no problem. There's a difference. Rabbi says no. What happens if right now they're preparing for the wedding? It's Sunday, and all of a sudden they're preparing for the wedding. The Wednesday should have been on Wednesday night. They can't do it Wednesday night because they won't, so they're doing it on Tuesday night. All of a sudden they find out that there's the army's coming. Now the minhag was that when the army comes, they come, they stay in the city, and they take, everyone has to give them to eat. So imagine you're now preparing a whole Suda, and now your entire wedding Suda is going to go to the army instead of going to your wedding Suda. So what do? You do it on Monday before they come. So now it's mutar, and now it's honest. It's not a sakana. There's no sakana here. It's honest. So that's what it says here. Once the tzava comes and they take the tzorches Suda from everyone there. So now if the Suda Nisuin is going to be prepared, right? Imagine the caterer, they come, they take everything. So because of that, in order not to lose everything, so therefore that's the honest in your life. It's mutar lechatchila to get married on Monday instead of getting married on Tuesday. So instead of what's the case? If we're going to say that they're coming and going immediately, so wait until Wednesday, right? Just wait until Wednesday, and then they left. Says, no, they're coming here, staying here for a few days, right? They, you know how it is. They come and they stay here for a few days. So b'shlishi mutar miyad lichnos. Says fine, get married on Tuesday, right? That means if he's coming on Wednesday, get married on Tuesday, right? So says the Gemara, but the ministers come the day before, which means before the army comes, they send the ministers and they start preparing the logistics. You know, the food, the this, lodgings, all that. So they already know what's going on. If you want, you could answer another answer. Here we're talking about another explanation. What is the honest that we're talking about? So the first answer of honest was the army. Second answer, what is honest? What happens? And by the way, this actually happens, right? This happened. It happened to a friend of mine in Toronto. that what happened was that they had a wedding, right? They made the wedding earlier because the father of I think it was the father of the Chatan was sick. And then what happened is that he was going to die. I think it was like 3 days before the wedding. He was already gone. I mean, basically they went and they made their wedding earlier because the father was thing. Then they had to, all of a sudden, it's within a day or two before the wedding. They got a minyan and they got married then and there. They had a minyan, they got married then and there, and then the father passed away. Now listen to this. Somebody has pito afui, his bread is baked. He's got everything slaughtered, everything's there. Yeno mazug, the wine is already prepared. Remember, the wine needed preparation to mix it with the water. Die. Right? Now, what happens? They put the deceased in a room. They put the chatan and the kala in the chuppah. Boel beilat mitzvah. He has relations with his wife. Uporesh. He separates. No, first he does shivat imam. He first does sheva berachot, and afterwards he does 7 days of avilut. In all those days, he's going to be with the man, right? Obviously, that's the first one. That's like nowadays law. However, though, we don't stop the kala from having takshitim adornments for 30 days because we don't want her to become ugly in the eyes of her husband. So therefore, we're going to allow it. We know that we'll continue Bezat Hashem on Sunday.